Gerrymandering has been in the news a lot recently in the US. And I'm wondering, is there a better way to set the system up? Remove the ums. How can you remove politics from the creation of political districts? Let's just see. Because Canada has this problem a lot less than in the U.S. from my understanding. I'll wait till it's done here, and I'll ask for that because, like, we have an independent commission that creates the districts, so politics aren't as involved. Good question. It cuts to something genuinely hard at the heart of democratic design. Let me walk through what's actually being tried because there's a fair bit of real world evidence at this point. The core problem is that someone has to draw the line, and whoever does it has incentives. Remove politics entirely turns out to be more complicated than it sounds, but there are approaches that meaningfully reduce the partisan distortion. Here's roughly the landscape from least to most insulated from politics. Who draws the maps? In most US states, the legislature draws its own districts, which is the source of the problem. The people whose careers depend on the map get to draw it. The most common reform is the Independent Commission. California is the showcase example. A 14-member citizen redistricting commission, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, 4 independent, selected through a multi-stage process involving random selection from a vetted application pool, with the legislature able to strike a limited number of applicants. Arizona, Michigan, and Colorado have variations. The evidence suggests these produce noticeably less biased maps than legislators do, though independent is a spectrum. Some commissions are advisory or still appointed by partisan leaders, which dilutes the effect. It's worth being clear-eyed that no system fully removes politics. Commissioners have views. Independent members aren't blank slates. And the criteria you choose, more on this below, embed political choices. So the honest framing is reducing and constraining partisan manipulation rather than achieving a political idea. Okay. So the goal is to reduce and constrain partisan manipulation. Rules that constrain the line drawing. Independent of who draws, you can bind them with criteria. Districts must be contiguous, reasonably compact, respect existing political and geographic boundaries, countries and cities, and preserve communities of interest. Some of these can be measured. Compactness has actual mathematical formulas. Okay, that's given me a couple. And others that score how much a district shape deviates from a tidy blob. Dude, are you AI? You look pretty real though. Definitely real. They haven't AI'd all of it yet. Where was I? From tidy blob. The catch is that compactness and other. I mean, if I was AI, I wouldn't be misreading words so often. Dude, are you AI? But you have AI. What? AI tag. So I assume you are AI, but real good. It's impressive. It's just to make it more realistic. I'm definitely real. You're on Twitch and you're saying, I mean, I'm using AI. Is that why I have an AI tag? English AI. I don't know how to remove it. I don't think I put it there. X done. I don't know. Is it gone? Why is Twitch saying I'm AI? I mean, I assume because half the time I'm reading for AI. That's why it's telling me. You can't because you are AI. Gosh, you are the best one so far I have ever seen. Thank you. Thank you. If I was making it, you know, there would be slight changes I would create in my own AI, but I haven't been able to do that yet. Do other places do that too? I mean, let me check my Kick one. No, Kick just says I'm English. Yeah, weird. I never actually put any like I never put in any tags or anything. I don't really know how to deal with that system. If I refresh this, will it go away? Yeah, alright, AI's gone. Well, nice to see you. We're gonna get back to gerrymandering. The fun stuff. How's my music doing? Thank you. Wish you a good day too, man. Music's still going. We're good. Did I update my stuff about gerrymandering? No. We're just gonna grab this. Update. We're talking about gerrymandering. Didn't change anything, huh? Same. Perfect. Everything looks good. Okay. Now where were we? So there are district shape deviates from a tidy blob, so there's actual formulas for that. Catch is that compactness and other neutral sounding rules can themselves produce partisan outcomes by accident. I mean, I've seen this, right, where there's like specific districts in the US that look really crazy, but it was designed well to avoid partisan outcomes. So like it's difficult to do because of where people actually live. Democrats cluster densely in cities, meaning many neutral maps still favor Republicans in the aggregate. A phenomenon sometimes called the geographic problem or unintentional gerrymandering. So you can't just optimize for compactness and call it fair. Okay. Algorithmic and mathematical approaches. This is where it gets interesting and where there's been real research progress. A few flavors. The idea of having a computer draw the optimal map sounds appealing, but breaks down immediately. Let's just have AI figure out all the districts. That sounds like a great idea. Like one of the things is when you learn about the origins and how AI started and how horribly, like, how to put it, like what kind of lean it had because it's just trained off training data, right? And so some of the original AIs and like AI chatbots out there, like if you gave it the word doctor, it would assume male. If you gave it the word nurse, it would assume female. And like the word doctor can be male or female. Like it's a profession. It doesn't have a gender. And it would, in the original models, like it had a gender aspect to it. And so it can be racist. It is the collection of the training data you put in. And if the training data associates male with doctor, the final AI will associate male with doctor. And so these are things that they're actively trying to figure out and prevent with it. And there's like a whole new industry and an area of AI study that tries to remove these connections that are not actually just there. They're just there in the training data. So it's not something to use for everything. At least not its current form. Okay. The idea of having a computer draw the optimal map sounds appealing, but breaks down immediately because you have to tell the computer what to optimize for. And that choice is the political decision in disguise. Maximize compactness, proportionality, competitiveness, these conflict. The more promising is using algorithm not to pick the map, but to evaluate maps. The ensemble method associated with mathematical Mundunchen and others generates thousands or millions of valid maps that follow the neutral rules, creating a statistical distribution of what's normal. An proposed map is a wild outlier, says it's produced a partisan split that almost none of the randomly generated maps produce. That's strong evidence of intentional gerrymandering. This is so hard to figure out. This is actually being used in courts as expert testimony. It doesn't draw the map, it catches the cheating. There's also the clever I cut you choose family of proposals, borrowing from fair division math, where one party draws the lines and the other gets to freeze or shift some of them, giving both sides incentives towards fairness. Ooh, these are mostly theoretical so far. Changing what districts are for. The most radical option is to question single-member districts altogether. I mean, proportional system, right? That would change it. Most gerrymandering math depends on winner-take-all districts. Multi-member districts with proportional or ranked choice voting makes district lines far less consequential because you're not slicing 51% majorities into precise wins. This is how many democracies avoid the problem entirely. The trade-off is losing the tight local representation. Americans are used to your one representative for you specific area, and it's a much bigger structural change. So what actually works? If I had to summarize the realistic toolkit, an independent commission with genuine insulation from legislators, bound by clear, measurable criteria, with algorithmic ensemble analysis as a check against outlier maps, gets you most of the way. The Princeton Gerrymandering Project and similar groups now publish letter grade scorecards of state maps using exactly these methods, which adds public accountability. But the deepest point is the one worth sitting with. Fair isn't self-defining. Should a map aim for proportionality? Seats matching vote share. Competitiveness, lots of close races. Or geographic neutrality. Just follow the rules and let the chips fall. These genuinely conflict, and choosing among them is itself a value judgment that math can't settle. The best systems don't pretend to remove that judgment. They make it transparent, constrain it within rules, and take it out of the hands of the people with the most direct stake. Is there a particular angle you want to go deeper? What was it about California again? California is the showcase example. How does Canada prevent gerrymandering? Can you compare it to the California Redistricting Commission? Let's see. Oh, hey, we got 3 people on Twitch. Maybe he just stayed. Wait, why is it saying unstable again? I'll figure that out later. Where were we? Oh, I just have it on high. So it shouldn't be thinking for too long. Okay, well, it talks. Let's see if there's another topic we want to cover today. Let's look at meta. Because Mark Zuckerberg is trying to create the metaverse at a staggering cost. I don't think he's doing very well, but he is trying. And so I think I should look into it. Just to, you spending that much money on a project, I kind of want the project to be cool. Okay. Canada is one of the standard examples people point out to when they say gerrymandering is a solved problem. And the comparison to California is genuinely illuminating because the two systems solve the same problem with almost opposite philosophies. Here's how Canada's federal system works. The governing law is that the Electoral Boundary Readjustments Act of 1964 passed precisely because Canada had gerrymandering and malapportionment problems before that with the governing party. So your gerrymandering has to get bad enough before you make the law to fix it. Apparently that's the rule. US, your gerrymandering problem is now bad enough. You can make the law to fix it now. With the governing party drawing federal maps. At each decennial census, 2 things happened in sequence. First, the number of seats. Okay. Let me get that word. Decennial. What is it?
Decennial.
Decennial. Happening every 10 years or lasting for a period of 10 years. Okay. Decennial, 10 years. Got it. 2 things happened in sequence. First, the number of seats each province gets is recalculated by a formula written into the Constitution, with some floor guaranteed baked in. A province can't have fewer MPs than it has senators. And there's a grandfather clause preventing provinces from dropping below their 1985 seat count. That part is purely arithmetic, no discretion. Then within each province, an independent 3-member commission redraws the actual boundaries. The composition of those commissions is the crux of the difference. Each provincial commission is chaired by a judge appointed by the Chief Justice of that province, and the other 2 members are appointed by the Speaker of the House of Commons. Typically academics, retired civil servants, and other non-partisan figures. Notice what's absent. There's no attempt to balance liberals against conservatives. The model is to substitute neutral expertise for politics entirely, rather than to balance competing political interests. Just substitute expertise for politics entirely. That's the philosophical fork. California's 14-member commission is deliberately built out of partisanship. 5, 5, and 4. You got your Democrats, your Republicans, and your unaffiliated. With MAP's approval requiring cross-partisan agreement. The assumption is that you can't remove politics, so you make the partisan check each other. Canada's assumption is the opposite, that you can mostly exclude party politics by handing the job to judges and experts who don't consider partisan data at all. Both are reasonable answers to the same question, and they map neatly onto the tension from before about whether fairness means balancing interests or transcending them. A few other constraints worth knowing. Finality. Both systems insulate the map from the legislator, but slightly differently. In Canada, MPs can file objections to a proposed map, which go to the parliamentary committee, but the Commission is not bound by those objections and has the final say. Parliament cannot amend or override the map. In California, the legislator and governor have no veto either, though maps can be challenged by referendum or in court. Both clear the central hurdle. The people whose job depends on the lines don't control the lines. That's the most important part right there. Population deviation. This is a big and unappreciated difference. U.S. congressional districts must be almost exactly equal in population thanks to strict one person, one vote jurisprudence. Deviations of even 1% or 2% get litigated. Canada permits commissions to deviate up to plus or minus 25% of the provincial range, and even more in extraordinary cases, specifically to accommodate huge, sparsely populated rural ridings and to preserve communities of interest. A northern Alberta or northern Ontario riding would be ungovernable if it had to match a dense urban one exactly. So Canada explicitly trades off mathematical population equality for geographic and community cohesion in a way the US system doesn't allow. Origin and scope. Canada's system came top down through federal statute in 1964. California came bottom up through ballot initiatives. Because the legislature was never going to reform itself voluntarily. And scope differs. Canada's commission handled only federal ridings. Provinces run their own separate provincial process, which vary in quality. Whereas California's single commission draws both congressional and state legislative lines. Track record. Canada's system is old enough to judge, and it's widely regarded as having essentially eliminated federal gerrymandering, which is why it shows up on basically every list of models to emulate. California is newer, but generally well regarded, with the caveat that a party-balanced commission can still produce maps that critics on either side dislike. If I were drawing the single sharpest line between them, Canada removes politics by excluding it, neutral experts, ignoring partisan data, accepts some population inequality for geographic sense, while California removes politics by balancing it, build the parties in deliberately, force them to agree. The Canadian model is cleaner and has a longer proven record, but it leans heavily on a political culture where judges and appointed experts are broadly trusted to be neutral, which is a real precondition. Part of why the US gravitated towards the balanced commission model is precisely that this kind of trust in neutral experts is harder to assume in the American context. So building in adversal balance is a more robust design for the environment. How does Alberta handle gerrymandering? Does it do it well compared to the other provinces? Might as well ask about where I live, see what's going on. I don't think I'm going to get into another topic. This is dragging on, but I'll do that one. I feel like the list is still getting longer. And then now there's like additional check-ins. That is something different, so let's move that down. Okay. Let's have a look. This is in Alberta. This hits close to home. That's why I'm asking. Okay. Switch to the search the web. This turns out to be a genuinely live and messy story right now. Not the tidy Canada solved it picture from the federal level. Let me dig into the space of how Alberta's commission is structured and what just happened. Okay, so it found something. I have the structure and controversy. Let me get one more piece. Okay, let's get down to when you actually answered the question. Like, it tries to talk to you during the search period. It doesn't have the answer yet. Just get the answer, then give me the result. Here's a short version that might surprise you given the clean federal picture from before. Alberta does not use the federal model. Its design is comparatively one of the weaker ones in the country, and right now it's being stress tested in a way that's exposing exactly those weaknesses. You're getting a live case study in your own province. Ooh. Uh-oh. How Alberta's system is built. Alberta uses a 5-member electoral boundaries commission, and the composition is the key. The chairperson is appointed by the lieutenant governor in council on the advice of the premier. 2 persons are appointed by the speaker of the nomination of the opposition leader, and 2 are appointed by the speaker of the nomination of the premier. So the 2 parties are appointing 2, and the lieutenant governor, so the governor general at the provincial level, is appointing the 5th. None can be sitting members of the Legislative Assembly, and for each pair, one must live in a city and one outside a city. Oh. Okay, that seems strange. Let's continue. Notice that this is a party balance model, much closer to California's built-in parties in and makes them check each other approach than to the federal neutral judge plus nonpartisan experts who ignore party data model you read about. But it's actually weaker than California's in 2 structural ways. First, the government side effectively appoints a majority. The premier advises on the chair and nominates 2 members versus 2 of the opposition. Second, and more importantly, the legislature determines the number of electoral districts. And the law lets the Legislative Assembly implement the Commission Majority Report either in full or with amendment. So unlike the federal system or California, Alberta's politics retain the final pen. That's the crucial hole. The live controversy proving the point. This is where it stops being theoretical. In November 2024, the UCP Justice Minister announced changes to the Electoral Boundary Commission Act before the commission was even established. The amendment expanded the legislature from 87 to 89 seats and changed the statutory factors the commission had to consider, removing the requirement to respect existing municipal boundaries and community boundaries within Edmonton and Calgary wherever possible. Removing the obligation to keep cities intact is significant because that's where the population and the opposition voters are concentrated. Oh. Then the commission itself, so that now you can include city and countryside. Now you can draw funny maps. Then the commission itself split. It came back with a majority report and a minority report written by the two UCP appointed members who recommended a different set of divisions with greater use of hybrid urban-rural ridings. The majority report would have added seats to Edmonton and Calgary, where most population growth has occurred. Strikingly, the chair himself didn't stay neutral on the split. Justice Dallas Minister urged the legislature to accept the majority report and suggested there were alternative motives behind the alternative maps drawn by the two UCP appointees. In the majority analysis, a cluster of electoral divisions in central and northeastern Calgary sat about 11% above the average provincial population, while divisions in the south and west Calgary averaged just 2% above. The kind of population imbalances that sustained dilute urban votes relative to others. The opposition framing is blunt. The NDP warned that UCP members were trying to gerrymander districts to increase the power of rural votes. Legal commenters have used the same word. An ABL log analysis was literally titled around whether the law will protect Alberta from a UCP gerrymander. Though it cautioned the gerrymander isn't consummated unless the government actually implements the minority maps. I'd flag that gerrymander here is an accusation from the opposition and critics, not a settled fact. The UCP frames it as regional representation, but the structured point stands regardless of motive. So, because of how the commission is set up, their maps are getting drawn into, is this gerrymandering? Is this not gerrymandering? This is gerrymandering. This is not gerrymandering. I got no idea, obviously. It doesn't look like they've gone through, but this is the issue with the commission. And it's still unresolved. The government moved to set aside the commission report and strike a member of the Legislative Assembly Committee to look at a 91-seat legislator. So they were adding more seats because Alberta's population has increased. And so now you need more maps, or different maps. And they can't agree on maps because is one side gerrymandering, are they not gerrymandering? The whole you can now include cities and urban areas together is interesting. Like, that doesn't seem like the direction you want to go, but so far the UCP frames it as regional representation and the other side frames it as gerrymandering. The third attempt since last year to redraw the boundaries after a formerly independent process became a political football. As of 2 days ago, that legislative committee appointed 4 members to an advisory panel, including a retired Court of Appeal judge who had donated to the UCP since retirement, and the NDP objected that the government has already spent $1 million of the original commission, rejected its report, and is now taking another run at it. So this is genuinely in motion right now. What are they doing? How that compares to the rest of the country? Poorly on the independent axis. The gold standard is Manitoba, and the contrast is sharp. In Manitoba, the commission members are fixed by statute as the Chief Justice, the President of Post-Secondary Institution, and the Chief Electoral Officer. There are no party nominations at all. Nobody picks their 2 members. The seats are tied to neutral offices by law. Manitoba's commission is nonpartisan and operates independent of government on a fixed basis. And notably, Manitoba was the pioneer here, adopting nonpartisan panels in 1955, which the federal system then copied in 1965. This is the cool thing about federalism, right? Like, you give the provinces more control, and they create cool systems, and then you can replicate those systems federally. Like, that's how we got healthcare, and apparently that's how we also got independent districts. That's even more insulated than the federal model because the members aren't even appointed at anyone's discretion. So the spectrum runs roughly Manitoba in the federal system at the insulated end, and Alberta towards the exposed end. Alberta's design looks independent and works acceptably for years, though through a norm of restraint, but it was never structurally protected the way Manitoba is. And the current government is now testing how much that norm was holding things together versus the law. The lesson loops back to your original question. The Alberta situation is a near perfect illustration of why who has the final say matters more than is there a commission. Having an independent looking body isn't enough if the legislature can amend its work. Change the rules before it starts and appoint a friendly majority. The system that actually resists gerrymandering are the ones that put the map genuinely out of the politician's reach. And that's the specific thing Alberta's design fails to do. Alright. Well, it sounds like why don't we just copy Manitoba's system? Like you've already spent like $1 million on this, and there's still being people still think they're gerrymandered. Like just copy the system that works. I mean, that's what I always advocate for. Just copy the system that works. Manitoba's and even the federal system works pretty well.